Hello, everybody. Happy Friday night. My name is Elise. Welcome to my tea table. Yeah, happy Friday night. Best Life Friday. We've been doing this all year, running strong, keeping it going. I am so happy to have you all here and happy to be leading tonight's little co-study session as we usually do. Don't worry, not too heavy of study. We have fun. Of course, always welcome questions, comments, conversation from chat. And remember, it is Friday night. We're here to have fun. We're also here to learn how we can put ourselves onto the path towards the best life. And last week's conversation, if you were there, blessings and thank you so much for being a part of that very powerful and impactful conversation that we had around fragility and around social stamina and cultural stamina. Today, I don't want to take it deeper, but I am going to, in last week's conversation, came across a lot of concepts and ideas and philosophy that I believe were overlooked and jumping to those concepts. And so what I want to do today is kind of take it back to the roots and look at some of those philosophies, most particularly around the concept of free will and agency. Agency is a term that I hadn't really started hearing on a regular basis until just about a year ago. Free will, of course, we've definitely thought about and learned about and practiced free will since childhood, I believe. That was like probably one of the first philosophical concepts that was ever brought to my classroom or, to the family dinner table is differentiating between the difference of fate and goodwill. Do we really purely have control over all of our actions? And I believe that the concept of agency may have been exactly what we were looking for to help explain that kind of gap between understanding, we do have free will, but at the same time, there's things out of our control, right? So we don't have complete control of everything. And the reason why I chose this topic for Best Life Friday is, of course, we're putting ourselves on the path towards the best life. And, as I, a few weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, the topic was on perfectionism and how impactful perfectionism is on our happiness in our life. And I think that this kind of plays into that same concept that not understanding the control we have on our decisions, the control that we have on how our life is dealt, can create some anxiety, and so it can be really powerful for us to think about these concepts. Again, I am not a philosophy expert. I'm a food scientist. I am an MBA. I am an entrepreneur. I'm a tech entrepreneur. So these sessions that I host really. They're really personally for me, and I appreciate you all being a part of it. This is a co-learning experience. I've been dealing with a lot of growth, and I think everybody has. I don't think I'm alone on this. I really don't. And so I appreciate having this platform for us to do this work together. There is no right answer. And last week is a perfect example of that, because last week I did bring up the concept of social fragility, and the specific example of white fragility, which I was accused of, and now I've come to learn a lot more about that, and that led to a very interesting, controversial conversation. But fuck it, man, we had a great, productive conversation. We had 600 people in the room, all contributing to this conversation in a very healthy way, with all very different perspectives, experiences. So just another testament that with the way that you frame these conversations, you really can make them productive, where, people will be triggered. Yes, people will say things that may offend someone else or trigger someone else, but the whole purpose of these conversations is to evolve our perspective and learn from others. So thank you for being here. With that said, you are more than welcome to chat whatever you want. Ask any questions that you want. I do listen to all of chat. I am streaming across several different platforms right now. But I do have the ability to interact with all of chat. Hello. I don't know what that word means. I hope it's a kind word, you know? But hello, good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. I'm gonna drink some tea before I have lined up some peer-reviewed academic articles to start off this topic, but I am gonna drink some tea first, get me in the right state of mind. I don't lingo, you know, like I guess that's it. I'll look it up. I'll look up the word and then I'll see. But I hope it's a kind word. Let me just get my handy dandy word generator out. My lingo generator. So it looks like there's a streamer with that name. That's like the only thing I can find out. And that streamer looks cool. It looks like they stream like gaming and artists and bands, cartoons. I'll check that. Thanks for giving me that heads up. I'm always looking for I mean, here, yeah. There's an Urban Dictionary, which it's not there anymore. It's always a red flag whenever the only the only definition you can find online for a word is for Urban Dictionary. It's like, okay, I get it. No, sometimes the Urban Dictionary is like legit. Like it's the only place that you can find something that's like super relevant and up to date. Like there's another term that's being used heavily in like feminism, neo-feminism rhetoric online, which is pick me, like pick me girl. And Urban Dictionary is the only legitimate like source to define what that means. And it's like, I guess Urban Dictionary has elevated itself to that level that like even academics are like referencing it. Yeah, it's not even in Urban Dictionary. It's a cool word you made up, though. I hope it's a nice word. That streamer seems pretty cool. They like seem to be like into like entertainment and shit, so I could dig it. All right, my water's hot. So why tea? Well, you know, I work with tea, so that's why I drink tea. But the better question should be, why have deep philosophical conversations while drinking tea? Right? That's the more important question than saying why are you drinking tea, because I'm not here to tell you about my business and tell you about why I do tea. Although if you're interested, I'll tell you. But like, tea has some super magical properties to it, chemical and spiritual, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, but you know, we can just focus on the chemistry of tea, of the Camellia sinensis plant. All tea comes from Camellia sinensis. This is a plant that grows in subtropical conditions around the world. It, you know, was first like cultivated and, you know, perfected and crafted in China. And the culture around tea drinking started in China, but now there's a tea culture all around the world, and there's a reason why it's exploded in popularity, and that has to do not only with the taste, you know, tea is pretty friggin' delicious, but also with the chemistry. So there's caffeine, and then there's also L-theanine in it. There's tons of other compounds in there that, you know, make you feel good and make the tea taste good, and depending on the type of tea you process, you're going to bring out different compounds there. But what's really special about the theanine is that it works with the caffeine to change the reaction of caffeine's energy in your body from like a jolt of energy to like a crash to being like a mental focus and a body relaxation. That's why you don't get like the jitters when you drink tea. So here's when, you know, the deep philosophical, or fuck it could be silly and fun too, but the conversations that we have around the tea table with each other can oftentimes be deep and meaningful because of that mental focus and that body relaxation. Our bodies are calm, our hearts are calm, our brains are focused, our thoughts and ideas are well articulated. You know, there is such a thing as like tea drunkenness, and it's interesting because it's not something that like makes you impaired like what drunkenness usually means. For different people it gives different effects. For me, it gives me like a hyper drive on my thoughts, and my thoughts are like super articulated, especially if I'm drinking a tea with a very high qi level like the one I'm drinking tonight. What I'm drinking tonight, which is not my favorite tea, I will get to that question you've got, but tonight what I'm drinking is a 2019 harvested Gushu Shengpuer from Nanoshan Mountain in Jishambana in Yunnan, China. The word Gushu, what that means is old tree. Yeah, cold tea is great too. And there's a difference how you brew it, hot or cold. You're not only going to get like a different taste, you know, experience out of it, but you're also going to get a different physiological experience out of it as well. So Gushu means old tree. Dashu means young tree. The difference between those two things when it comes to pu'er is that the roots, right? So like pu'er tea, and this is what makes pu'er tea unique, but there is a movement among tea growers around the world to start doing this themselves, is instead of planting their tea gardens with clones, which is typically what you see when you see like the rows of shrubs of the tea plants on the tea mountain. They look very beautiful, but those are from clones. Those are coming from cuttings of a mother bush, and the roots that grow out of it will grow more horizontally, and the life of that tea plant is only going to be like 70 to 150 years, and then they're going to have to replace it with a new clone. With the seed grown plants, those seeds will grow a taproot that goes deep into the earth. Oh, thank you for the wholesome. I find you wholesome too. Thank you. The taproot that comes out of the seed that grows into the ground, it will continue to grow for the rest of its life. And some of these tea trees are like over 1,000 years old. And so the general rule is that the roots will go as deep as the tree is tall. I've climbed an 80-foot tree before. So that root is going at least 80 feet into the ground, probably even more, because the tea trees tend to be pruned to make the harvesting more manageable. So the deep roots means that the root is getting access to soil that's really high in mineral, and that's when the qi comes in. And so you asked a question, a very important question, and this is the question that every tea master, you know, dedicates their entire life to, is how to like decipher qi in tea. And just like with any kind of sensory skill that you develop, it really just has to do with your own confidence in being in the sensations of your body. So, you know, when I go to China to buy tea, so this is a little bit more related to my business. I run a business that is like a marketplace between independent tea growers and tea business buyers. So, you know, tea shops can get access to like direct trade tea, and my software facilitates that trade. So I often have to travel to Asia. I have to travel to these places where the tea is being grown. And in China, when you're tasting tea and you're sitting with a tea master, or you're sitting with a very experienced tea buyer, you know, they will drink the tea, they will take in the aroma, you know, and usually they just take it as far as saying it's aromatic. That's it. Like, you know, like in the US, especially around like wine culture, it's become really important for tasters to like, you know, identify specific notes and, you know, make connections. You know, they got those flavor wheels and whatnot. And they don't do that in Chinese tea tasting. You know, they'll just smell the tea After they smell it, then they'll drink it, and they'll talk about the taste, if it has like a honey taste, if it's sweet, if it's bitter. But actually bitterness and astringency are really much more associated with texture than they are with taste. And texture is more important, even more important than aroma. Here in the US, I'm a food scientist, so like that's my background, my technical background. Aroma is king in our food system here. That's why perfumes and flavors, like natural and artificial flavors, are such a powerful part of our food system, is because we know that there are millions and millions of receptors in our olfactory that can make your brain think one thing or another about a sensory experience with your food. But with Chinese tea, texture is even more important than that, and it's not millions of different receptors for texture. It's just simply, is it sweet, is it bitter, is it balanced? That's the most important. Like, does one or another of those sensations overpower the other? That's what you're trying to avoid. And then the most important quality to evaluate is the qi, and that you don't even start talking about until you have already finished drinking that cup of tea for 5 minutes. Sometimes it can be hours after you drink the tea. You're sitting with the person and you say, I'm feeling that tea, I'm feeling it in my fingers, I'm feeling it in my body. Like, it's more about talking about how your body's energy is feeling, more so than this kind of superficial outlook of talking about how the tea tastes while it's in your mouth. And that's qi. And that takes a lot of experience, I am grateful that my experience with tea has been with independent farmers, with farmers that have very good intentions, because even the intentions of the people, the agency and the free will, the things we're going to be talking about today, those actually impact the qi of the tea. So if the people are oppressed, if the people are in some kind of marginalized position while they're interacting with the tea and harvesting it and processing it, that will transfer into the tea. If the people are empowered, they're independent, autonomous, practicing their own agency and in control of that agency. Not in control, let's say, that's a bad word, because I know that's going to be confusing as we go into this conversation a little later, but if they are like aware of their agency, I think that's the difference between being in control, because like you're not really in control of your agent. That's the whole idea of agency versus free will. But if you are, aware of your agency, you don't have to be rich. You don't have to be like having everything you've ever dreamed of in life, but like just autonomous. That's the better word I like to use. It's just autonomous, living your life. That's positive qi. That's positive energy. If you're not having stress and anxiety, and you're just doing your work and doing it with pride and doing it with gung fu, which is what this is called, this practice of Chinese tea brewing. Here on my tray here, you see this term is gung fu cha, gung fu tea. And gung fu is more of like a mentality. It's more of an intention set that you are going to do the best of your ability with resources available to you. Those resources could be experience, like you've studied and studied and studied and you know what you're doing. But those resources could also just be whatever is there, like just even your own agency, and that's why I'm making the topic of today's conversation, because there can be a lot of power gifted to us. It's not even gifted, because it's given to us already. It's outside factors that kind of blind us from understanding that we do have our own agency, but that being in touch with that agency can give us a lot of power and a lot of happiness, will lead to a lot of happiness. All of these things, perfectionism and beauty standards and all the isms, that are out there. You know, and I'm happy about today's conversation because we're not going to be talking about one ism or another. We're going to be talking about agency. But all of those things, all of that BS that we deal with in our lives, not just here in this country and not just in European countries, like this is something that is a persistent theme throughout the world with humanity currently, is that there's all these things that can distract us from understanding our own agency. You know, even if we're in like the ultimate tyrannic, oppressed environment, you know, what we learned from last week's conversation with fragility, like fragile communities such as like Afghanistan or Somalia. Yeah, the people don't really have a lot of power as individuals to do anything about their agency. But there's a lot of people. And if the people did have their agency and did, you know, figure out their power of convergence, they could do a lot for themselves. But that whole system is just continuously reminding them that they don't have agency, which is bullshit. It's bullshit. We've got it. So that's why we drink tea while we have these kind of conversations. It's just a really good fit. Now my favorite tea, if you're still here, no mix, sorry. My favorite tea is actually shaded green tea from Japan. So that would mean even like matcha. Matcha is a shaded green tea from Japan. But more specifically, I really enjoy Gyokuro, specifically for the Yame region. And the reason why is because Yame is the highest elevation mountainous tea growing area of Japan, where the temperature ranges from day to night are the most extreme, and that kind of pressure and that, I mean, almost torture, there's no other word to put it, but that torture on the tea plant causes the plant to create more amino acids, which, you know, will make the tea much more umami and having like a really nice mouthfeel and flavor. But the L-theanine, that magical compound I mentioned earlier with the caffeine that causes that meditative state of mental focus and body relaxation, is an amino acid. So, you know, teas that are going through that torturous state are going to be higher in those compounds, which can, you know, heighten your mood, make you feel better, you know, help with your mental state and your mental well-being, you know, and then ultimately your total physical well-being as well. Yeah, this tea is great. Now, this is actually yesterday's tea, you know, so this is a great opportunity to explain something else about tea brewing, is that, you know, I started to brew this tea yesterday, the tea leaf. I put the tea leaf in yesterday. I think I only infused it like 2 or 3 times. A really good quality tea like this should be able to infuse, you know, up to 20 times. You can just sit with it and keep infusing it. I probably will change it out after maybe like 1 or 2 more infusions and move on to a different tea. But, you know, I just didn't want to waste the tea. This is very valuable, precious, beautiful leaf. I wanted to preserve it and get the most out of the tea. And so that brings up another topic around the value of tea, right? So if you go to a tea shop that's selling loose leaf tea similar to this one, you may feel like, oh, it's a little pricey. You know, I can go to the Whole Foods and buy, you know, a box of tea bags for this amount. Well, the tea bags, you're only going to infuse them one time, right? You put the tea bag in your mug and then take it out and drink your mug of tea. The tea in tea bags is manufactured in a way to optimize brewing in a short period of time. Essentially, it has like a higher surface area so that it'll brew faster. But it's only like engineered to brew one time versus, oh, save your tea bag, we'll put it in another mug afterwards. I mean, you can try to do that and you may get something out of it, but it's engineered so that it it releases all of its flavor and goodness in the first infusion. This tea is engineered so that you should be able to steep it over and over and over again. So, if you really brew it properly as far as getting the full value out of the tea, this tea ends up being more valuable. Not as expensive actually than the tea bags. But that does entail sitting with the tea and like fully experiencing the tea versus just having this convenient thing that you can put in the mug and walk to your office and be done with. So there's a whole practice around it, and so like I don't like to push it. I do make fun of tea bags because it's just a nasty habit. Leave it in college. We don't need that as adults. But I am understanding that this is kind of a big leap to go from tea bags, or even to go from like coffee. Although I think that like brewing tea like this, the process is a lot easier than like pour over or other forms of coffee, espresso, that like require a lot more equipment and kind of study to perfect. But it can be a big leap to go from tea bags or from casual coffee drinking to this type of tea drinking. So I'm not in a hurry to convert everybody, but we'll all be there. We'll all be doing. I'm sure of it. It's so good. Once people start doing it, they really start realizing a lot of important changes in their entire lifestyle. Not just in the tea, not just in how they're feeling while they drink this specific tea, but like really like high level philosophical things. I mean, myself, I didn't discover Gung Fu Cha or this type of tea really until I started building this business. I kind of fell into it. It wasn't, talking about free will and agency, that was my agency. I was kind of thrown into it, and I'm going with it. And I'm so blessed and so appreciative of the work that I get to do, and the advocacy that I get to do. So I'm so happy to be here, to be doing this. I've been doing it for about a decade now. And before drinking tea, I was a deep thinker. I was, trying to do things in life and acquire experiences in life that would bring me more meaning. But like my articulation of things and how the world works was kind of shallow compared to what it is now. And that required a lot of vulnerability. It required a lot of kind of pain, especially like right now. The past year, I have not experienced the level of pain in this journey of vulnerability and self-discovery and world discovery. I've never experienced this level of pain before. But the tea just makes it so much easier. It makes it like no problem. It's a piece of cake. I wouldn't be doing anything else. So it's changed my life in that way. It's definitely changed my life from like a work perspective, and how I'm traveling around and getting the opportunities that I am to work within the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency space, and to meet leaders within those spaces, as well as food advocacy and food sovereignty. I'm grateful for that, because I'm obsessed with food. I always was since I was a kid. That's why I studied food science. But then I worked in the food industry, and I was like, man. Speaking of, this morning, I came across the very first, and I'm so sad to freaking say this, it was the very first food science content creator that like I actually followed, because on TikTok, and TikTok is, I know, Reddit, you may have your opinions on TikTok. It's a powerful platform that a lot of important voices that never would have had a platform are getting their voices out quick and fast and awesome. And on TikTok, there are several food science content creators. And for some reason, food science content is really popular. I understand. It's like science and it's food. It's like everybody kind of likes science, like ever since we were kids, we always kind of liked those like little science toy kits that we could get. It was like fun and entertaining. We may have not like really learned anything really important about science in that, but it was entertaining. It was something like kind of cool and different. But when it comes to food, like that's relatable. That's like yum. Yeah, I could talk about food. Um, so these content creators have quite large audiences, um, but unfortunately, they use their platform to, bust a lot of myths around, how unhealthy food is. And there's a lot of right, correct, valid kind of conspiracy theory around our food system because it's fucked up. It really is. And these food science creators are so like holding on so tight to the validity of GMOs, of chemical preservatives, of these things that are being demonized by different sections of the community for right reasons, and just using their scientific voice to validate that these things are all healthy, that like we shouldn't care about high fructose corn syrup. It's like, yeah, we should fucking care about high fructose corn syrup because it's like ruining our world. It's like one of the main components that's like oppressing us. But on a molecular level, on a molecular scientific level, I could even justify that fructose is a natural thing. It's like, so this is just a high fructose version, but anyway, I've got a little bit of beef. I've never followed an actual content creator because I just feel like they're just propagating out this propaganda. But today I came across a woman that, calls herself the Black Food Scientist. And for the first time, she's actually like giving, like, not only is she giving out the real fun, juicy food science stuff, because that's always fun, but, she's also very sustainably minded and is not trying to, give out any of the propaganda that, food chemicals and all of that are actually good for us. Because they really aren't. And that's why I do tea, actually, because I worked in the food industry and I just felt like, even when I went to like Whole Food Company or like organic certified companies, it was like just as poisonous as, the Walmart brand. And I'm like, what is this? This industry is not having human sustenance at the forefront of their decision making, at the forefront of their goals, which is why I studied food science in the first place, because I like feeding people, I like feeding myself, and I like studying that and, thinking of cool new ideas about how to do new things. And so I was super jaded on the whole food industry, the whole of it, like all of it, even organic, fair trade, all these things. And I did the Peace Corps. That's a whole other experience I'm grateful for. But like when I came back from the Peace Corps, I was in West Africa working with rural farmers. I had to get a job again, and I was like, and I'm like, my standard is so high now, like it's gonna be hard to find a job. And I was in Hawaii, which makes it even harder, because if you know anything about the state of Hawaii and the job market there, it's, but I got lucky enough and ended up working for this green tea manufacturer. And that was my first experience with tea. I'd never drank tea. I'd never had a tea culture. I was already, 25 years old at that point. So, well into my adulthood. And, but it was the first time, and I was a food scientist. I was doing quality control. And it was the first time, like, the product that we were making, like, like, okay, this is actually healthy. Like, the company still had the motivations of like, how do we optimize sales? How do we optimize sales? And that's just the nature of the beast. I mean, I'm still in that mode. Like, how do we sell more? But at least I wasn't feeling guilty that I was like poisoning people, and I always felt that way with everywhere else that I had worked. So that was the experience that got me into tea. And from that point I was like, okay, so tea is a good thing. I'm going to further explore this. I'm going to put more of my effort into getting more into this. And then that led me on the rabbit hole that I'm on now. And now My goal is social cohesion, and that's the purpose of these streams on Friday nights, because if we drink more tea, if we find our own happiness as individuals and then as a community together, we can make the world a whole lot of a better place, and, autonomously build better food systems for ourselves versus letting, the powers that be make those decisions for us. Because remember, like, the Jetsons, that show, the Jetsons, the cartoon from when we were kids? That was such a fun cartoon. But, like, their food system was, like, pills. Remember, they would, like, eat pills, and that was, like, breakfast. Oh, here's your pill before you go, into your little starship. That's it. Like, that's where the food scientists, they'd be happy to lead us to that path. The food industry, they'd be happy to lead us to that path, because who can be bothered with eating? Who can be bothered with the supply chain of, like, moving whole food around the world? Nah, like, pills are easier. So I don't know. I'm not really into eating pills. Music tonight, as is always provided on our stream, is from Sojourner, Justin Anderson. He's a multi-instrumentalist, very talented musician based here in Las Vegas, Nevada. I am based in Las Vegas, Nevada. And happy to have some cool, funky acid techno to pair with our tea and deep conversations together. Now, I do only stream to Reddit on Friday nights, but I stream 5 days a week to Twitch. So if you'd like to join on the Twitch channel, if you want to get a full view of the tea table and, be able to, like, read articles with us while we're looking at them, that's our Twitch channel. You're welcome to join us there. But not obliged, don't worry. Like, I'm fine. That's why I stream here. I like the Reddit platform. I do. I like it a lot. But it takes a lot of energy to read the chat on the phone. I've heard there's a way to stream it through the computer, but I'm actually, like, not interested in that. I kind of like the realness that comes with the phone. You can see the green screen behind me on the internet. I am able to play with, like, fun animations and cool things with the green screen. So if you're into Twitch, come follow me. If you stream to Twitch, let's be friends. I like making new friends on Twitch. That's why someone, I don't know, if someone was trying to make a jab at me earlier and call me a funny name or something, but when I was looking the word up online, I ended up finding this cool Twitch channel in the process. So I'm always happy to. Wow, powerful question. I didn't know that there was, I'm gonna look that up. Because this is actually really important. Like, you're asking a question about animals, and that's related to what I'm talking about today. It's human agency, personal agency, and free will, but it's all rooted in the concept of anthropocentrism. We're, like, our processes that we Okay, so here's an answer on Quora about it. It turns out that one mega colony occupies much of the world, and ants from this group will not fight one another. But yes, otherwise, they are likely to flee, separating from each other, engaging in a war on the border between the two groups, depending on how territorial they are. So that's just, like, their own natural processes, huh? I was not aware of this. When they encounter each other, they would inspect each other and keep moving. Sometimes they would react as if startled, but wouldn't fight. The red ants would even emerge from the holes they were swarming with black ants. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of an interesting... Animals are amazing. We can learn a lot from them. I love watching all the bee videos online. They're like beekeepers that, advocate for safe beekeeping and safe, beehive removal from your home. Because that again is related to this concept of anthropocentrism. I'm having trouble pronouncing this word. Anthropocentrism. Where humans are building all of their infrastructures and all of their interactions with the world through the lens that humans are superior, can often lead to these irrational and violent relationships with nature and animals. And bees are one of those. Bees, the only good bee is a dead bee. It's the prevalence of pesticides for that reason. But it's kind of cool. These beekeepers are advocating for more ethical. It's not even just a question of ethical. It's just more intelligent. Removal or migration of these bee colonies. And the trick is to find the queen. You see them, they find the queen and they put the queen in their hand and they'll walk around with this queen in their hand, and the whole swarm of bees are just following them. And they just know the order. They use their own senses and have their own processes going on. So it seems like this conflict between the red and the black ants is something that humans really aren't intervening with, which is good. I thought you were trying to say that there was something going on with the human intervention with ants, but it seems that it's just that's just how the ants live. Yeah, they don't really, they coexist but don't co-inhabit, which is fine. Now, are you trying to get me to correlate that to interpersonal relationships? Because, on the Constitution study, on Wednesdays I do a Constitution study group. So if you're interested in constitutional talk and understanding civility in various government processes of supporting civility, follow my channel. Wednesdays, we talk about that, Wednesday afternoons. This past one was talking about social cohesion, and found an article that was specifically targeting South Africa, because South Africa has gone through a lot as a nation, a lot of transition, and are currently practicing a democracy similar to how we practice a democracy here in the United States. And this report was making criticisms through interviews they did with real people, lots of real people, and found all these consistent themes throughout the stories of these people, that despite this kind of forced democracy, this forced, equal rights between everybody, just based upon the social structures that were already existing even before apartheid, it made the democracy fake and not real. And that's exactly the same case, in our own country. Criticism can be made towards the lack of authenticity and realness to our 14th Amendment. But it's written in our 14th Amendment that we all are, granted the same rights and the same humanness. But in the reality, there's so much going on. And so, not a popular thing to throw out there, but perhaps these are situations where desegregation is perhaps too immature. the social cohesion is not mature enough for desegregation. And this same argument came up when I did a study into the current status of desegregation in schools in the United States, which is a valid, real, current issue. There are, I mean, I think in every state, there are active initiatives to still desegregate schools, because like even though like segregation became illegal in the 60s, just with how the housing developments have been working since then, the schools are just kind of naturally segregated. And so now there's initiatives to forcefully desegregate them by like busing students from one school to another to, even match the demographics, diversity of those, entire counties, so that each school can represent the same diversity, which, understanding the intention is great. It's like, yeah, we do want to give the same experiences or similar experiences to all people, regardless of their income or where they live. But now there's a lot of criticism and activism saying that that's not the sustainable solution. The sustainable solution may be perhaps to let those students go to school in their local areas. Like, that fucking makes sense. Like, no student wants to be sitting on a bus for an hour and a half just so they can go to the school on the other side of town. Like, that in itself is kind of silly. But the real solution is not distributing the physical students, but redistributing the resources. But that can be controversial. That can make people feel uncomfortable. It's like, no, we're in this age of desegregation. And it's like, well, segregation doesn't need to mean that, like, they can't coexist. Just like the case with these, like, red ants and black ants you threw out there. It's not exactly the same, but it just got me thinking that is something, an argument that can be made. And it's not a popular argument. It's not a popular discourse because it makes people extremely uncomfortable. But perhaps it's one that we need to make room for, because our social cohesion and our systems are not ready for full democracy, obviously, because it's not happening. On paper, it's like, yeah, we got the 14th Amendment. We're all the same. Woohoo! We've come a long way. But in reality, it's not there. So, little detour to your question, but thanks for the question. So, agency. Honestly, I was ignorant to the word. I never heard of it past like a year ago. I never heard of the word. I definitely had heard of free will, and when I was first hearing the word agency and kind of drawing some context clues based off of what I heard around that, I did, think it was like free will. But let's see. I've got the first and foremost, I do have a lot of like peer-reviewed academic articles to look at, but I always like to start with the Wikipedia, because it's just usually basic information that's like very easy to start out with. But we will go deeper. So agency is contrasted to objects reacting to natural forces involving only unthinking, deterministic processes. In this respect, agency is subtly distinct from the concept of free will, the philosophical doctrine that our choices are not the product of causal chains, but are significantly free or undetermined. Human agency entails the claim that humans do in fact make decisions and enact them on the world. How humans come to make decisions by free choice or other processes is another issue. So that's the difference. So it's almost like, all right, I'll continue. The capacity of a human to act as an agent is personal to that human, though considerations of the outcomes flowing from the particular acts of human agency for us and others can then be thought to invest a moral component into a given situation wherein an agent has acted, and thus to involve moral agency. If a situation is the consequence of human decision making, persons may be under a duty to apply value judgments to the consequences of their decisions and held to be responsible for those decisions. Human agency entitles the observer to ask, should this have occurred? In a way that would be nonsensical in circumstances lacking human decision makers. For example, the impact of comet Shoemaker-Levy on Jupiter. All right, so there's an example. So I just introduced the concept of agency. So let's practice some agency here with your comment, Rose Gold Tree. Okay, so you say you just got blocked by a stream for thinking it was Christly. You mean Christly as in like Christian? To accept pronouns. So your action was your free will. Yeah, okay, yeah, like Christian. Christ-like. Do you mean accept pronouns like someone choosing the pronouns that they want and other people need to accept that choice that they've made, or accept pronouns that someone else interprets on somebody and that somebody needs to accept those pronouns? Because that makes a big difference in this story. But in either case, there was agency practiced here, right? And there's learning to be had on that situation, regardless of what had happened. Right? Because, like, in both cases, like, let's say my pronouns, my pronouns are she and her. Those are, like, I don't, I'm privileged in that I never have to have an issue of someone being confused about my pronouns or feeling like I'm forcing, pronouns on them. But let's say, for example, I do want to have different pronouns, and someone else doesn't accept them. Like, it's fully acceptable. It's fully valid for me to have a boundary, and practice my own agency. That one, I can make my own pronouns. I can establish my own pronoun. I have that agency. Also knowing, though, that, like, even though I have the free will to do that, like, there's going to be interpretations. There's going to be interactions and lack of a better word, consequences, that moral, and, the moral agency comes in of deciding, what's going to happen when someone else doesn't accept my pronouns. And this may not be related to your specific story, because you still didn't tell me exactly, like, the situation of who didn't accept the pronouns. But so then, with that agency of knowing I can set my own pronouns, but then also knowing the consequences that can happen when someone else doesn't understand it, and there's going to be, like, this moral dilemma, that I can also, practice the agency of boundaries, and block somebody, or, create that boundary of someone not respecting my agency. So then in the other position of that conflict, someone has the agency to not accept someone else's pronouns, want to force their own pronouns on someone else and say, no, you're born a woman, you need to accept the pronouns of being a woman. They have the agency to do that, but then they also understand that they're going to get blocked if that other person is practicing their own agency. And it's a healthy interaction. It's a really healthy interaction for both parties. But the only way that happiness is going to be there is if we are aware of those agencies, right? If we're unaware of those agencies and like, we're fixated on like it has to be one way or another or some kind of doctrine, it's going to be really hard. This conflict will constantly come up of feeling as if nothing is going the way it needs to be going, and everything is numbered against you, which is not the truth. Yeah, well, they're welcome to practice that agency of having that boundary. And you are also welcome to be discomforted by it, right? You're welcome. Like, no one's saying, like, your discomfort is morally incorrect. But it's something to learn from. And everything's going to be okay. I'm sorry you got blocked. I'm sorry that you feel... but it wasn't you personally. I mean, this is probably something that person is constantly kind of feeling that they're having to battle. And, that's what they're working on. So, if they blocked you, more than likely you're not the only person, and if they did block you, it wasn't like they're personally attacking you and, making this big hissy fit over pronouns. It's like that's become something important for them. And we all learn from those situations. That was the situation that I had last week where I was talking about fragility, like white fragility. Like, I was accused of white fragility. I was not blocked from a live stream, but I was definitely like called out. Like, the streamer had hundreds of people in her channel at that time, and I shared... Oh, I see. Well, it's okay. So it was a guy who was pissed about someone being non-binary. Oh, because then it's their problem. Don't worry. Don't worry. It's their problem. It's okay. It's okay. It's their problem. They're the ones that are unhappy. You know what I mean? Like, someone who, like, is constantly trying to force their own doctrine or ideology without understanding that, like, we all have our own individual agency to do what we want. Like, that's where the unhappiness comes from. And the happiness comes from, like, being in touch with that agency. Not only knowing I have the freedom and the ability to, like, make the decisions that I want to make and do the things that I want to do, but then, there's also a lot of happiness that can be found in, like, understanding that everybody else also has that awesome autonomous ability and agency to make the decisions that they want to make. So but I think, like, there's in the oh, that's interesting. I've never seen that before, but anything is possible. Anything is possible. Like, when people are so married to their dogma or their indoctrinations or their perspectives, it's really hard for them to accept other people's. I struggle with it too. Okay. So the philosophical discipline in charge of studying agency is action theory. In certain philosophical traditions, particularly those established by Hegel and Marx, human agency is a collective historical dynamic rather than a function arising out of individual behavior. Hegel's Geist and Marx's universal class are idealist and materialist expressions of this idea of humans treated as social beings, organized to act in concert. Also look at the debate, philosophically derived in part from the works of Hume, between determinism and indeterminacy. I never heard those. Structure and agency forms an enduring core debate in sociology, especially the same as in the Marxist conception. Agency refers to the capacity of individuals to act independently and to make their own free choices based on their will, whereas structure refers to those factors such as social class, but also religion, gender, ethnicity, subculture, etc. That seems to limit our influence, the opportunities that individuals have. So this last paragraph is exactly, the conflict that you just experienced, Rose Gold. All right, so now I'm going to read an insert from the Oxford Research Encyclopedia. Not so much about agency. I mean, yes, it is about agency, but it's the article for post-humanism, which tonight is the first time I've heard of post-humanism. I don't study philosophy a lot. I like to. Rose Gold, what would you like to talk about? I'm welcoming that from you. I can get back to post-humanism in my own time. I'm here all night. What would you like to talk about? Talk about tea. I'm more than capable and happy to talk about tea. I'll brew some more tea. This is my Gaiwan. This is the quintessential tea brewing vessel. This translates okay, so infection within post-humanism, what does that mean? I'm not a scholar either, so that's why, this is for us. This is for us to, co-learn together, try to become better. The whole reason why I wanted to talk about this was to talk more so about the concept of anthropocentrism. Anthropocentrism, which is the concept that, human beings, and this is something since the Renaissance that has just really just started to run rampant throughout our society, that humans think of themselves as this superior being to the rest of the world, including animals, nature, whatever, the rest of the universe, that because humans have free will, a lot of it is based on our ability for reason and our understanding of free will. That inherently grants us this privilege that we're better than the rest of the world, and we should make decisions that favor us beyond anybody else. And interestingly enough, on some rabbit holes that I went down earlier this week, a lot of other oppressive frameworks such as sexism and racism have all been linked, or the study of anthropocentrism and the consequences and the manifestations that have come from that ideology. A lot of feminists and ethnic activists have cited that similar ideology that like humans are better than nature. So I'm like, there's something there. We should look into that. Your kettle. Does your kettle have like a gooseneck? That's funny. I've got a tea friend, someone that's really into tea, and I always make fun of him because I shouldn't make fun of him, but I do, unfortunately. Sorry, Eric. But he like insists on not having the gooseneck, and for like a lot of coffee drinkers and tea drinkers, like this is like the quintessential shape that we want for our brewing purposes, just because it gives you a lot of control on like where you can have the water go and the speed and the force that you can have the water go, onto your tea leaves. Like with the Gaiwan, it's very easy to create like a vortex as you pour the water on, which helps make the brewing more efficient. But I got one friend, he insists that he never wants a gooseneck. There he is. Speaking of, Eric, I was just saying, I just told the story about how you insist on not having a gooseneck, and I always make fun of you for it. How are you doing tonight? Thanks for stopping by. Good to see you. Hope you had a good nap today. I hope everybody... Oh, you got a fat kettle. So my friend, he likes to have the fatter spout because he likes to... What's the reason, Eric? Is it because you like the water to come out harder? Yeah, sometimes you need to pour hard onto a tea. God, dingleberry tea, that sounds disgusting. Oh, you heard? Okay, good. Get your dingleberry tea bags out of here. Yeah, I hope everybody's well rested. We need it. That's something else tea is good for, like even though tea's got caffeine in it, I think it does help. It does help rest. Help you like focus on resting, getting yourself into a restful state. Hey, free is awesome. Oh, good. So now you're wide awake, ready to drink some tea, huh? Well, I hope you own your own business. Well, that's good, Rose Gold. Clean and free, you can't pass that up. You can't pass that up. And then also it's like, talking about this concept of like taking care of our environment, or not even a matter of taking care of our environment, like just being the environment, like being practicing our agency, like fully practicing our agency while understanding our interactions with the world around us, including the environment. Like, someone gives you something like this for free, you fucking take it. Like, that's the responsible thing to do. Like, not only is it free for you, it's like, great, I don't have to buy another one, but it's like another one doesn't have to get produced for you to have a kettle. So I always like support that argument, you know, like in the whole like sustainability world, sustainability marketing, which, you know, I interact a lot with in my business. You know, there's this whole like industry of like sustainable clothing, you know, made of hemp and, you know, made of all these like sustainable materials that are organic. And but then like there's this whole argument that that's like inaccessible to a lot of people because those are expensive. We're talking about like a $60 shirt, you know, or, you know, $120 for pants or skirt. And it's like, hey, you know, I don't have money to buy that. You know, I gotta shop at Walmart, whatever, you know. Maybe that's not the case, but maybe that's what they feel. And it's like, well, then that's okay too. But the better thing is to like stop shaming people that like they're not up to fashion because they're not constantly changing out their wardrobe or keeping up with the seasons. It's like, hey, you know, they're just like utilizing the things that they had and like fully valuing and appreciating the things they have versus increasing the need for new shit to get produced. And that's what's actually detrimental to the environment. Oh yeah, Tiguanian, that sounds good, Eric. Well, you know, that's like a fucking shitty, I'm sorry, I'm cursing a lot because I get really heated about this specific topic. That like business philosophy that like freaking Apple is like the company Apple, they've perfected this business concept of obsolescence, right? Where it's like, let's build this object and make people feel like they need this object, but it's engineered to not last longer than 3 years. It's engineered, you know, and appliances, the same thing. It's like, you know, they say that all the time, like, oh, they just don't make them the way that they used to. And that's fucking true because of this concept, this business concept, because they want you to go back and buy a new one, because they want to produce a new one and support this business. And there are other better ways of building business than doing that. Yeah, thrifting is great. Thrifting is another great way. Like, if you do want to, like, continue to upgrade your wardrobe, then, yeah, you should thrift. Well, that's good. Yeah, like, that's great. You live in a place where people will take your things that you put out. My warehouse, where I am right now, where I stream from, my tea warehouse, there's like some scrap yards not far from here, like 2 blocks down. So there's a lot of activity of people that collect things to take to the scrap yards to make money. There's a lot of people walking around with, you know, carts and trailers collecting things. So anytime I put something out, even if it is like legitimate trash, like it's done, like no more use out of it, it's gone. It gets taken care of and reused in some way. I mean, ultimately, the sad part of it is some of it does, you know, not just my specific stuff, but like stuff that people collect because they think that there could be some value from it, either taking it to the scrapyard. If they take it there, they don't want it, you know, they don't pay for it, then it does just end up on the side of the street in a place where it won't get picked up. And so that's kind of sad. You know, like street encampments and whatnot, that things get left behind in. I live just outside of a really nice neighborhood, like really high income. What kind of stuff do you like to repurpose, Rose Gold? Or what's like, tell me the coolest thing you've ever repurposed before. I'll show you something. I actually repurposed something recently on stream. It's kind of weird. So, my company has these tins, right? This is how we package and sell the tin. We got like, you know, all the information on it. And it's a really nice tin. I chose to make these tins because they were more expensive, but I chose to do it this way because I knew that no one would throw this away, because it's like, it's solid, it's pretty, it's airtight, perfect for anything. You can put more tea in it. A lot of people will put cannabis in it or other things. You know, it's a nice tin. No one's gonna throw it out. But I did a stream a couple of months ago where we made art. We made art to repurpose the tins. So this was my shitty art that I made. It's kind of like an ASMR. Here, I'll show you, Eric. I don't know if I've ever showed you this, Eric. It's pretty funny. It's like this ASMR toy. So it kind of has all these cool feelings and noises, you know. Feels good. But inside the tin is where it's really special. Really nice. Really nice feeling, you know. It's like once you open it and start doing this, you don't want to stop. Yeah, you can remove the label. I started to on part of this one, but then I got lazy and just painted over the label. But yeah, here it is, Eric. It's got these green little beads. And this is just like really cool feeling. It's a little naughty. But it feels good, you know? You made a cast iron tub that couldn't be turned into a trough that became a vegetable garden. Wonderful! There you go. See? It's a win-win. It's a win-win doing those repurposing things. Yeah, the tins are great. That's why I invested in the tins. Like, they cost so much more than other packaging, but like other packaging, even like the something that's popular among all the sustainability tea brands is like, they're like cardboard canisters that are supposedly recyclable, but not many people are actually going to recycle those. Those all end up in the trash, and they don't last long because as soon as they get wet, yeah, it looks intimate. Is right. It was. I did not intend for it to be naughty, but once I started putting it all together, it certainly did come out quite naughty. But there's like, so this is a balloon. This is a pink balloon, and there's beads under here, so it feels. That's what I'm feeling here. It does have like a feeling to it. But yeah, it's a little naughty. Yeah, but nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. We're all adults here. Eric, the topic tonight is personal agency or human agency. Because it like makes noise. It makes noise. And it like, it's kind of soothing to feel it. Like, I could sit there and like play with it for like an hour, making like ASMR type noises, but I won't. I'm not an ASMR streamer. In fact, I have started to actively block, at least on TikTok, because there's a lot of ASMR streamers on TikTok. I've started to actively block them because I just like, I can't handle it. I can't handle it. Some people really like it, and that's cool. That's their thing. It's great that there's an outlet and a platform for them to like be entertained and be relaxed. You can make pods that can be buried as pollinators. That's great. Like with seeds. You just like put seeds into pods and bury those. Yeah, so Eric, the topic tonight is human agency, which, it's, for me, has been kind of a relatively new term that I've been hearing. Yeah, for me too. It's a new term for me too. I'm just getting educated on it myself. When I was first hearing it and using context clues around it, I interpreted it to be like free will. All people have the ability to like make decisions for themselves, and sometimes they don't feel like they do, and they're like in oppressive, marginalized situations where they can't. But it's different than free will, actually. That's a good question. Why don't U.S. politicians have human agency? They never get anything of value done. They do have human agency. That's the problem. They have human agency that's not very well connected with the moral agency of their work, right? So, like, they're practicing their own human agency of making decisions that are self-serving. And that's fine, actually. That's the whole nature of human agency, that we can make decisions that are self-serving to us. But there's another important concept, and this is what differs human agency from free will. Like, free will would mean, like, I can do whatever I want and there's no consequences, and I will just continuously be able to do what I want nonstop. And, politicians are kind of in that mentality, that other than like not getting reelected. So like that's the only time whenever they do practice any kind of moral agency is when they want to make a decision that's going to best favor someone just so that they don't lose their vote. But like really making a decision that's really gonna get anything of value done requires a much deeper level of thinking within moral agency, that yes, we can make whatever decisions that we want. Yes, we can make decisions that are self-serving to us. But there are consequences. There are reactions. Hey Jim, good to see you. Welcome to the stream. Good evening. Much love. There are going to be consequences. There's a show I started watching on Netflix last night called Sweet Tooth. Anybody seen it yet? Anybody seen it? It's kind of cool. It's like a fantasy show. Yeah, we are talking about tea. I'm drinking some tea. Drinking some Pu'er tea. Yeah, the Albanian. We're not talking about altruism. No, we're talking about human agency. Human agency. Which, you can choose to pursue a path of human agency. I mean, the human agency just means that we can choose whatever we do, but it could be a path of altruism if you wanted to. But someone specifically asked a question about politicians, like U.S. politicians, and then I'm bringing up this show on Netflix, a new show called Sweet Tooth. It's kind of a fantasy show, but it's about the Earth readjusting itself. Yeah, choice is an illusion. And this is where human agency comes in. This is where human agency kind of fills that void between free will and the illusion of free will. That, like, yes, we have control over the decision that we make, but there are other higher things, such as moral conflicts or natural processes or history, systemic history, that plays a part on our free will. So it's not like pure unadulterated free will. Like, there's other things involved. Yeah. Yeah. So like when I was a kid, being introduced to the concept was free will. It was very like polarized. It was like either free will or fate. Free will or fate. And now with the rhetoric introducing concepts like agency has really like, I think it's helped filling that void for us to understand. And even that is like, doesn't explain it to a T. It doesn't completely fill in that void. It just says, hey, free will is not this completely unadulterated thing, and fate is not this completely uncontrollable thing. Like we can play a role in it, and we do play a role in it. But this show, Sweet Tooth, is about the earth readjusting itself, like nature readjusting itself through a pandemic, through a deathly virus that, is wreaking havoc on humanity, due to the poor decisions made by politicians, made by business people, made by that 1% that are like currently practicing their free will without consequence. But there are consequences, and eventually you're inevitably going to realize it, like either through your own self-actualization, through doing work like this, or through everything deteriorating around. Okay, cool. So this, thank you for bringing this nice king for you. Let's hear it.
Solipsism.
Solipsism, the view or theory that the self is all that can be known to exist. Yes, very interesting. And that's related to the overarching framework that I did want to talk about tonight. But I chose to focus in just on agency. But something that I want to like dig deeper into is the ideology of anthropocentrism. That like humanity is like the top. I mean, this solipsism kind of takes it even further to be like the self versus human-centric decision making. So then that took me to look up into like humanism, like classical humanism, which is like kind of the birth or the origin of anthropocentrism, which really didn't start taking off and really start affecting the environment and the world until like the Renaissance, and now it's just fucking over the top. And that's where we could talk about tea, because tea is the most popular beverage in the world after water. Huge demand, huge business development that's happened over the past 300 years, and a lot of detrimental environmental decisions have been made to satisfy that business demand, that are affecting water sources, soil fertility, social dynamics within communities, specifically the colonized communities of the world. So yes, it is very much related to tea. I know we were talking about tea, but you knew the word solipsism, Eric? I didn't know that word. I had to look it up. See, I'm not that smart. So you asked the question, do you think the Earth will eventually rid itself of humans in order to reach ecological equilibrium? It could. If we don't listen and start practicing like a good moral agency, yeah, it could. I mean, who knows what could happen, but my personal gut feeling around it is there's definitely going to be some significant reduction in population. It's gonna have to be for everything. Like, I think with where we are at our current like consumer level of consumerism and the power that is controlling that, there's kind of no turning back on that. But there is the opportunity for localization, and that will require much smaller populations. Oh, interesting. So, like, a sociopath, is it different than that? A social solipsis, is it different than a sociopath? I guess I can look that up. I'm curious about that. Or like a narcissist. You are right. No, Kitchen Clinton, you're totally fucking right. And this is like, this is what's interesting, is that you're right. The politicians are chosen by their, in a democracy, right? In a democracy, a politician is chosen by their constituents. So on paper, in theory, we have the power to practice our own agency, to put in the right people that are going to do the right things for us. We have that power. But the more we allow ourselves to be tired, to be self-critical, to be self-loathing, i.e. perfectionists, hustlers trying to accumulate wealth and property, oppressed by beauty standards or whatever other oppressions, as long as we allow those things to continue to keep us tired and beaten down, it's going to be really hard for us to converge and like take back that power as constituents, to bring in the right politicians that will make those right decisions for us and practice, good agency versus bad agency that's misled. No, I'm not gaming. I game on Tuesday nights. I play a game called Gods Unchained. It's a blockchain-based digital card collection game. If you are interested in that. It's a fun game. It's actually a really fun game. I have a lot of fun playing it. I'm not a gamer. I've never been a gamer. I've been playing the game for a few months now. I've gotten, pretty good. It's pretty fun. I hang out on my channel and play that game and talk about like cryptocurrency and NFTs and all of that. My business was one of the first Bitcoin merchants in the world, and we launched the world's first altcoin payment processor. Why are you here? Oh, that's a deep question. I don't think that there's any legal consequence to being rickrolled. That's on you. That's all on you. Oh, that's interesting to think of, like climate change as like the Earth's own like temperature control. Kitchen Clinton says the Earth is having a major fever in the Midwest to California to rid itself of the pests. I think that's a valid way to look at it, to see, but that would require us to like let go of that like human-centric ideology that we've kind of grown up in, but to see like the Earth or the environment or the climate having similar functions to like what we have, such as our body temp and sickness or whatnot. Interesting. So the main difference, it seems, according to Reddit, is that sociopaths are born or become the way they are naturally, and solipsists choose to be the way that they are. Sociopaths will actively not care for others, while solipsists just care for themselves. But from the outside, they're very similar. Cool. I learned something new about psychology today. Always good to understand psychology. There's a lot of power in understanding psychology, because, like, growing up, I mean, even up until, like, a couple of years ago, or even fucking last year, I could say, like, I never really, thought about these things, and I just accepted all of my relationships and the troubles I had with them as, like, learning experiences, which I think is still good. I still do that. But it's also good to understand psychology, so maybe you can help yourself from beating yourself up too much. Like, oh yeah, I'm just working with a sociopath here. It's okay. Yeah, Eric, I'm always here to look shit up. That's what I do. Just looking shit up. Might as well. Yeah, the Earth is gonna adjust itself. Yeah, that's why, like, you always hear that argument. You know, among the sustainability world, they say, "Oh, the world, we're killing the Earth," and it's like, well, not really. We're, like, killing our habitat on Earth. The Earth will continue. It'll create itself. So this really, so Eric, you posted about this. So your contention against the pursuit of colonizing Mars. One of my company's investors, based in Hawaii, they are the family that commercialized and brought to market Tetris. Talking about gaming, ultimate game of history, Tetris. So Mr. Tetris, you know, well-established, independently wealthy gentleman, has been, you know, very sustainably minded and invested a lot of his resources into helping, you know, these, like, future technology development, you know, to heal the world or whatever. And he's heavily invested in the NASA pursuit of colonizing Mars. They have, like, these biodomes on the top of Mauna Kea mountain on the Big Island in Hawaii to replicate Mars and test out the astronauts to stay up there and whatever, and, like, grow food and shit. And he says the reason why he's so invested in it is because in the process of building these colonies, a lot of technology is going to have to be developed, you know, which is technology that he believes is going to be necessary for us to continue to exist on Earth. I mean, he's even optimistic enough to say that that technology could help us perhaps even turn back time a little bit as far as the damage that we've already done. I don't know. I feel like it's too far done. My philosophy on it is, like, if you want to survive that, is to hunker down and, you know, deal with the changes, and Earth will readjust itself because it wants to support life. It really does. Or maybe it doesn't. Yeah, Eric, you said, I hope Earth won't go the way of Venus. Because, yeah, Venus doesn't support life, right? I don't think it's ever been proven. So, collecting seeds. developing networks and understandings of culture around the world. You know, learning how to take care of those seeds and propagate those seeds. Like, those are all things I think are good if you're concerned about these things. I think those are good things to invest yourself into. That's what I've been doing the past, I mean, pretty much ever since I went to the Peace Corps. And I was in Niger, West Africa, which is in the Sahel. It's like right below the Sahara Desert. It was probably one of the first places on Earth where like blatant desertification and blatant like takeover of fertile land started happening on Earth. And to see it happen, like you see it happening in real time, like day to day when you walk outside and like go for a walk around the village, you see the desertification like increasing. You see the soil, it changes, you know, the soil changes from, you know, a sand to like a hard packed clay that like you can't even dig into. It's not a clay, but it's hard packed. I forget what it is. But basically it becomes a desert. It becomes completely infertile, unable to hold water and hold nutrients. Ever since I saw that, and that was back in 2006, so it's been almost 20 years, and 15 years. I'm like, shit, this is real. This is real. And then I lived in Hawaii for a long time and got really involved with the sustainability movements there. And, you know, that's all very much like ocean related. A lot of the research happening in the ocean is showing the acidification of the ocean is scary as fuck, because the trends show, yeah, the ocean is not going to be a hospitable place for life, like in the next 100 years or something. Just like don't be turning your back, like, yeah, don't be turning on the ocean. Like, and it's so interesting because the ocean is always like the last environmental thing that people think about. There's a lot to be learned there. I mean, there's a lot that we don't even freaking know about the ocean. Back to the philosophy. Posthumanism. Posthumanism is a philosophical perspective of how change is enacted in the world. As a conceptualization and historicalization of both agency and the human, it is different from those conceived through humanism. Whereas a humanist perspective frequently assumes the human is autonomous, conscious, intentional, and exceptional in acts of change, post-humanist perspective assumes agency is distributed through dynamic forces of which the human participates, but does not completely intend or control. Oh, thank you. I enjoyed the Peace Corps, but you should do it too. I mean, I tell anybody who has ever like considered it, I'm like, just go apply. Like, I don't know if they're not accepting applications right now with the pandemic. They sent everybody home. No one is out of country right now, but maybe they're still accepting applications. But I say put the application in, because the application process takes like a year. And even if you're like retired or if you're in the middle of your career, like, it's still actually a really good thing to do for yourself. And it's more self-serving than it is volunteering. I'll just put it that way. I think it's really important to evaluate that, because it's like there is a little bit of a problem of like people that do the Peace Corps that see it as this like self-congratulatory thing, versus seeing it more as like a selfish thing, which it is. Like at the end of the day, like you gain as a person, you gain so much more from the experience than the community that you interact with could ever gain. Not to say that you can't do impactful work. You definitely can. Like my first project, I would say I didn't do too much impact. The project I did in Africa, I didn't do too much impact. But the second time, I did 2 assignments. The second time I went, there was a lot of impact. But still, even with that amount of impact that happened, I still benefited more than that impact. Which means I benefited a lot, you know, which is great. But I don't work at Google, but I've been to Google and I got a shirt and I use Google. I'm a victim of Google. Yeah. That's a whole other topic. We could talk about ethics and in platform businesses such as Google. I will hold space for that conversation because I know that there's arguments on both sides and I hold space for both. But yeah, I'm a Google user, and I'm fully aware that it may come back to bite me in the butt at any time. I'm fully aware of it. But I guess it's like one of those risks that I was like willing to take. I don't work at Google. I own my own business. I work on my business. Post-humanist philosophy constitutes the humans as physically, chemically, and biologically enmeshed and dependent on the environment. Moved to action through interactions that generate effects, habits, and reason, and possessing no attribute that is uniquely human but is instead made up of a larger evolving ecosystem. There is little consensus in post-humanist scholarship about the degree to which a conscious human subject can actively create change, but the human does participate in the change. All right, enjoy your sleep, Eric. Thanks for stopping by and hanging out for a bit. Dream about colonizing Mars. It'll be a good dream. Why is it hard to get into the Peace Corps? You know, like the Peace Corps, they have like a lot of people trying to apply, and so they've created some kind of umbrella type standards that they use in their selection process. So yeah, it's kind of competitive. But ultimately, I don't think it's competitive. Like, I think it's just like outside of the standards, which is like having an undergraduate degree at least, or if you don't have that, you have to have at least like 7 years of relevant experience in one of the areas that they have projects, which is like agriculture or education or healthcare or business or computers. Like if you have like 7 years experience, then that's one of the standards. But outside of those standards, I think the Peace Corps has some kind of baked in tests, just like all the fucking military, you know, government offices. They have all of these like secret questions that they ask you to like test your personality or your level of how much of a psychopath you are. I don't think the Peace Corps does that, but I've heard the military definitely does that, like for high level, high security access, like ninja assassin type positions and units. They definitely want to see if you're a psychopath, because they want that. They want psychopaths. That's the reason why. But with the Peace Corps, they have all these kind of baked in kind of like hurdles for you to cross, to kind of test your endurance, to test your tolerance, to test your patience. Yeah, the Peace Corps does not require military, but they count military as like 7 years of experience. Yeah. No, I totally hold space for people that say that Google is bad. I totally hold space for it. But I also hold space for like the tools and utilization that Google has brought to my business. So I'm not completely against it yet, but I hold space for both arguments, and I'm completely ready. I'm completely ready to be told, and it wouldn't even be a matter of like I told you so, but of like being involved in some very corrupt use of my data and information. Like I'm prepared for that to happen. But whenever you're scrappy and starting up a business, like Google by far provides the most value to a scrappy startup. And so far I've felt pretty safe in all the work I've done, but I'm fully aware that could all just be pulled under me. I'm fully aware of it. What does my business do? So I run a company called Tealet, T-E-A-L-E-T, working with T. We are a B2B marketplace that facilitates international trade supply chain between independent tea growers and tea business buyers. So I work with a network of people, individuals around the world. I don't really work with too many businesses because I'm trying to bring like a new business ideology, business framework that I call distributed entrepreneurship to the agriculture industry. My ultimate goal is to offer this value of transparent supply chain management to all of the agriculture world. But right now I'm building up in the vertical of Camellia sinensis, which is tea. All tea comes from that one crop. And it's a specialty crop that has high value, very similar to even like cannabis, but it's completely legal, it's completely valued in almost every country in the world, and the most important thing, there's no custom tax on this commodity in any country, and that a lot of that is due to what happened with the Boston Tea Party, which is kind of a cool little history tidbit. So it's been a really easy vertical for me to build within because the product is like very compact, very high value, so like logistics is really easy. And then with the lack of custom taxes and laws around the world, it's been very easy for me to like get involved in trading everywhere. But I work completely by myself. I'm really, oh, thank you for the silver. Appreciate it very much. Much love. In this framework of distributed entrepreneurship, what I'm testing is the concept that what conventionally the international operation of a business like Starbucks. Starbucks is a really great example of a business that's like doing the same operation that my network is doing, that this platform is the network itself. My platform is just supporting the network, but the network itself, which is not just me, is doing all of the operation that conventionally a company like Starbucks would centralize and completely own, which is the farming, the supply chain, the logistics, the quality control, value add, the retail, the service point. All of that is owned by Starbucks. They own all of those components. And the problem with that is that a lot of externalized costs are overlooked. And so there's a lot of corruption, there's a lot of really shitty things going on. And the stakeholders, such as the farmers and, even companies that intermediate, that are like in the middle there, they get shafted. And when Starbucks owns everything, they can shut everybody up and put it all under the carpet so we don't get to hear about it. But in distributed entrepreneurship, this framework that I've developed and am practicing, that operation is not done by one single organization, one centralized organization. It is performed by a network of thousands of small businesses of entrepreneurship. Oh, hi, Vaca. Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. It's just in the middle of some deep philosophical conversation. Oh, that's a cool little. What was that? I've never seen that. Oh, thank you for the subs. Oh, the gifted subs. Oh, that's so sweet of you, Vaca. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Much love. Hey, if you all were on Twitch, you'd be getting gifted a sub right now. Vodka, I'm just, well, I should Colin, right? I should call you Colin. I'm sorry. Don't mean to dox you or anything, but, oh, you're number one now. I'm also streaming to Reddit and TikTok, so I'm doing a lot of chatting with Reddit right now. Yeah, I'm a tea expert. Yeah, I've been studying tea for a little over 10 years now. Prior to that, I studied food. I'm a food scientist. Yeah, I've streamed to the past. I only stream to Reddit on Friday nights. On Friday nights is when I stream to Reddit. Yeah, so the platform for like the digital and online presence, I use social media. So again, like going back to talking about Google is like these tools such as Facebook and Twitch and Reddit, like if done right, can be absolutely free and can be extremely powerful for managing these networks. So my business is really managing a network. Yeah, we have software, marketplace software, including like auction software. But at the end of the day, like it's really just managing a spreadsheet of people within this network. And this is the farmers, this is, you know, proxies that we work with, this is the tea brands that we work with, and of course consumers too, like end users, teaching them about tea, teaching them about quality. Okay, cool. It is a beautiful kettle. Yeah, sexy gooseneck. I heard a Bitcoin at the door. I've got to let him in. Bitcoin, you want to come say hi? Come on. Come say hi. Oh, he ran over. He's like, I heard people were here. This is Bitcoin. He wants to say hello. He was napping, but I guess he's awake now. He's a napper. He's our CFO and head of security. Jasmine pearls, nice. Nice flowery tea. Oh, Jim, you're always happy to see Bitcoin. You like being his best friend. BitDog, yeah, for sure that is his name, BitDog. Oh, he came over here for some cuddles. Cuddles and treats, I'm sure. So he does his own version of ASMR. We were talking about ASMR earlier tonight. Here. Sit nicely so we can get you in the mic. Yeah, so I don't know, like Google, Facebook, all these things could completely like, you know, break and fall for my business. But at the end of the day, like I'm not completely dependent on them. But, you know, they're powerful, free, yeah, everybody loves the crunch. They're powerful, like, free tools that, yeah, he's a good boy, that I'm grateful to have access to and use with my business, but at the same time, I do understand the risk associated with them. I do drink oolong tea. I drink a lot of oolong tea. That's actually probably the tea I drink most, like, on a daily. That or black tea. I also drink a lot of black tea. But like pu'er tea, like the one that I'm drinking here, can be quite, you know, energetic, a very high energetic to me. So I only drink it when I feel like I need it. And I felt like I needed it today because, you know, we're having this very deep philosophical conversation. So I felt like I needed it today. Yes? He's a cute boy. Used to make kombucha. Awesome. Is Handley a dog? Is Handley a dog? Yeah, I think most Americans, or most people in the United States, the most tea consumed in the U.S. is black tea through iced tea. So I think that's why most people in the United States are, familiar with black tea. All right, so this link here, teaanditspeople.com, that's where you'll find the tea. And not just finding tea, you'll also see profiles for all the teas and the farmers that make them. And we make video. Okay, Bitcoin, I know you're boss. You're boss. I got it. Oh, your dog's an Aussie. Oh, nice, beautiful. Bitcoin is a Chihuahua Beagle mix. It's a Chihuahua Beagle. All right, go on. Go sit over here. I'm gonna brew some tea. Go, sit right here. Go on. If you're a good boy, you'll get more treats. Yeah? Okay, sit down. Sit. I just woke up from a nap. Why are you trying to get me to sit? You want to brew tea? Is that what you want to do? No. I knew that. I knew you didn't. Yeah, tea and its people. You can see videos of all the farmers and learn about the teas and how they're made. Oh, you have a chocolate lab. Awesome. Oh, I love everybody's talking about their dogs. What do I think about teas that are sold to enhance attention and mind fog? Well, or depression. The depression thing is kind of difficult. There is a new movement in tea processing of optimizing the GABA production. GABA. Oh yeah, we love cats too. Bitcoin, you like cats? Would you like to play with a cat right now? Yeah, you like cats. He likes cats too. We like cats. He likes to act like a cat. That's the thing, everybody always confuses him for one of those cat dogs. He likes cats. Cats usually don't like him, but he loves a cat. Yeah, so GABA is a compound that's found in a lot of products, not just tea, but it's found in a great deal in tea, and it has been found to help with depression and other, mental illness, or, just mental calmness. And some tea producers in Japan, and now in Taiwan, it's become really popular. If during the oxidation process for tea, if they do it in a nitrogen, Bitcoin, come on, you're on camera right now. When you do it in a nitrogen, a vacuum with nitrogen, no oxygen but nitrogen, it actually enhances the GABA production, and so those teas are being marketed to help with depression and mental health, which is kind of interesting, and there's studies that are starting to be funded around that. But tea in general has caffeine and L-theanine, and those two compounds together do act to enhance attention, focus, optimize, to put you into a meditative state. So yeah, I would say and with my clients, right, so I supply tea to tea brands and tea shops and other tea businesses. Are you ready to go down? You want to go down and go play with your baby on the carpet? All right, go on. Say goodbye. Say goodbye. Goodbye, everybody. Go play. My clients always ask, hey, people come in and are always asking what health benefits, different teas have. And there are a lot of research studies that have found, different benefits of different teas. But a lot of those benefits, you won't experience them until you've had a lifelong lifestyle of drinking tea on a daily basis. So it's really hard, because a lot of people that are looking for health benefits, they want something fast, within a week they want to see a difference, right? So it's really hard to say, this is going to help with weight loss, or this is going to help prevent cancer, because you kind of have to drink it every day for 30 years before you're gonna see that kind of effect. But the L-theanine caffeine interaction is something that you will notice immediately. Yeah, Jim says it helps with blood sugar control. Yes, that's true. But like if you drink tea one time, or if you drink it, for 1 week, you're not going to see that help right away. But, if you drink it for every day for 30 years, and, different teas have different benefits. So that's another thing is that like drinking a variety of different teas is also going to help versus like, I heard green tea is good for preventing cancer, so I'm only going to drink green tea. And the worst thing on top of that is when you like treat it like a medicine. It's like, oh, I gotta drink my green tea for the day. And like, if you're not truly enjoying it, like, it's not really serving you. So when people come to my tea room and ask about like what tea is gonna be good for their health, I say ultimately, like, taste a lot of different ones. Try all these different ones, and the ones that you connect with and the ones that like you truly enjoy are the ones that you should be drinking. And when you're 60 years old, you'll thank yourself. Oh, that's good to hear. So Jim said, Jim's a friend from Twitch that we turned on to tea. He says drinking at least once a day for 3 months, and it started to help with his blood sugar. So that's fabulous. Awesome. Let's see. Let me decant this last one, and then I'll jump back to the philosophy. Yeah, it does taste good, and that's the key, is finding ones that taste good, because like there are some teas that you just may not like and not think taste good. Don't try to force yourself to drink them. Just try to find a tea that actually does make you happy and brighten your day. Like you look forward to that time every day that you're gonna sit down and brew tea. Look forward to it. As distinguished from post-humanism, humanism is credited with, and so those are different things, very different things. Humanism is credited with attributing the conscious and intentional human subject as the dominant source of agency most worthy of scholarly attention. Since its inception during the Renaissance, humanism has been constituted in various ways throughout history, but as a collective body of literature, the human is typically constituted through humanism as autonomous from nature, given the intellectual faculties of the mind that controls the body, uniquely capable of and motivated by speech and reason, and an exceptional animal that is superior to other creatures. Humanist assumptions concerning the human are infused throughout Western philosophy and reinforce a nature/culture dualism where human culture is distinct from nature. In contrast, a post-humanist scholar rejects this dichotomy through understanding the human as entangled with its environment. A post-humanist scholar of communication typically integrates scholarship from a variety of other disciplines, including, but not limited to, art, architecture, cybernetics, ecology, ethology, geology, music, psychoanalysis, and quantum physics. Awesome. I like quantum physics. Did you know that the Dalai Lama is like one of the most elite quantum physicists in the world? And that's cool. That's one reason the quantum physics gets me really excited, because it's like, wow, here's like an actual science that like is trying to measure spirituality, which I think is like a really powerful pursuit. Yeah, so Kitchen Clinton, you make a good statement. So back to, tea and health benefits, you say that the teas that are supposed to provide an enhancement don't taste very good, you find. Yeah, so there are some like caffeine enhanced teas. They taste terrible because caffeine in itself tastes bad. It's like super bitter. You want to come up? You want to come back up? Come here. Come here. You want to sit on my lap? I know you do. Come here. Come here. I'm not going to go down. I'm comfortable here. I'm not going to go down and pick you up. Yeah, like caffeine is really bitter on its own. Yeah, the Dalai Lama is a scientist. He's got like a PhD in like quantum physics. He like studies it for fun. And like I've heard him speak a couple of times. Yeah, he brings it up. I met him through a group that are like Gandhi scholars. The ahimsa, like the Hindi concept of nonviolence, and all of these people are also like, well, not all of them, but a good amount of them are also into like quantum physics and quantum mechanics, and they utilize the concepts of those sciences to explain meditation, to explain, and it's like, fuck yeah, man, that's, because I'm a scientist myself, and it's been really difficult for me to like, as much as I want to be spiritual, like I want to be, it's like if things don't like mathematically and scientifically line up, it's really hard for me just to like accept it. It's become a lot easier, as I get older, but it does make me excited to see like things being measured, even like what's his face? Stephen Hawking, like super scientific, but also incredibly like spiritual and metaphysical in how he explains things and pursues, his science. So I'm like, yes, more of that. Like I don't understand the science of it, like that's above my head, but I fully support it because it's kind of bridging those worlds together, which is incredible. So yeah, I'm a fan of posthumanism. Tonight was my first time to ever look up this philosophy and read about it. Like what I just read was the Oxford Encyclopedia article on posthumanism. I've certainly heard of humanism. I had a friend I was arguing about feminism about. Okay, come here. We were talking about feminism, and he's like has a PhD in philosophy from an Ivy League school, and I was just like, he was really pushing for humanism, that all humans are great and that we need to support all humans. You can be an atheist and still spiritual. Like, you can be an atheist and still see things in a metaphysical light, right? Because I think even like, I'm not going to make that assumption, but like, I don't know. Someone can correct me. I could look. Let me look it up before I say it. I'm gonna look it up to make sure I word it correctly. Yeah. So Buddhists are atheists as well. Yeah. So being atheist doesn't mean that you can't be spiritual. Hey, Cynical, good to see you again. I remember you. Thank you for coming back. Much love, much love. Yeah, we're talking about philosophy today. Who binds the metaphysics in a godless universe? Energy. So that's why in like string theory or in quantum mechanics, the core, like maybe what they would say could be God or whatever definition of God you want to say, like the core background. Hey, human guy, good to see you. Thanks for saying hi. The core of metaphysics and the core of even physics is the strings that all kind of vibrate, you know, and they vibrate in harmony with each other. And so it's like that harmony itself is also kind of a godlike figure, a godlike concept. But it's not a god. So even like Buddhism is considered not a theistic religion. The Buddha himself rejected the idea of a creator god. And Buddhist philosophers have argued that the belief in an eternal God is nothing but a distraction for humans seeking enlightenment. So yeah. Yeah, of course I remember. You brought a lot of like really great engagement to the last stream. Of course I remember you. So yeah, my friend was trying to say we should be humanists. Yeah, the Tao is the flow. Yeah, Jim. The flow, yeah, so it's like that harmony, that flow. But those strings are immeasurable. And I remember going to a talk, like the talk the Dalai Lama was at, where they just kept reiterating the importance of being able to measure those strings and like the movement of those strings. And as soon as they could do that, like we could essentially like measure the flow, measure the rhythm, measure metaphysics, and then finally understand things like black holes and all that. Like I saw a really cool documentary on Netflix about a project, one of Stephen Hawking's last projects that he was involved in, where they had these like mega telescopes to measure black holes, because I guess black holes are a really great example of this concept of not being able to understand the flow. And so yeah, they were trying to measure something with black holes, like I forget exactly what it was. Tough to think of the universe building in itself the force of interconnectedness. Yeah. So that's it. Like that interconnectedness, like as like powerful as our consciousness is, like it's a pretty fucking powerful thing. I'll agree with that. I will agree that humans' capacity for reasoning, humans' capacity for fucking ethics and civility and speech and intelligence or whatever, like it's mind-blowing. It is miraculous and awesome. But it's nothing compared to this interconnectedness. I shouldn't say it's nothing, because it's everything. But it's like, it's so easy to get wrapped up in that humanism, in that concept that like, because we have reason, we're miraculous and nothing else matters. It's very easy to get caught up in that. It's like our ego, you know, as individuals, like when we get caught up in our own personal egos, it's very easy, because it's like, you know, our consciousness is rooted in ourselves, And like that's who we go to sleep with every night, and we wake up with every morning, and who we, are born, and then who we die with. So it's really easy to get wrapped up in it, but like it is you. Thanks for coming by. Oh, cool. You remember Bitcoin? Thanks for stopping by again. Yeah, so I stream to Reddit on Friday nights, and on Friday nights, the stream is titled The Best Life Friday, where we talk about various topics about how we can put ourselves onto a path towards our better life, or to our best life, right? Which is like a constant moving target. So, don't put too much pressure on yourself that you have to be living the best life at all times, because it's a constant moving target. But it's also a relatively moving target that we have agency. That's what we're talking about today. We're talking about agency. We're talking about the difference between free will and agency, and then how that affects our relationship with nature and the environment. So that's currently where we're at. We're talking about Bitcoin. Oh, he's getting it right now. He's loving this. Such a cutie boy. We're currently talking about the relationship between the metaphysics, interconnectedness of metaphysics, and then like quantum physics, and spirituality, and our own human consciousness, our individual, because we do have all our own individual agencies, which is all unique, very unique. Even Bitcoin's got his own agencies. It interacts with me, it interacts with his food, it interacts with his environment, but it's also just his. He's got a manly jaw for a little dog. That's funny. You hear that, Bitcoin? You're a manly dog. You're a manly boy. He's like close to 10 years old. So he is definitely full grown. He's not a puppy. Yeah, right? It's true. Doing something here affects something light years away in theory. It's true. Very regal, yes. Oh my goodness. All right, there's a good question. Thanks for bringing this question. It's a very good question. How do you take someone's agency? Is lying the only way? I don't think lying's the only way. All right, Jim, good night. Thanks for stopping by, hanging out with us. We love you. Bitcoin, say good night. Good night. I don't think lying is the only way, but I certainly believe that lying, this is a classic example even in intimate relationships, like personal relationships, not even talking about systemic or government state level oppression that affects people's agency. But let's talk about intimate relationships, personal relationships, and manipulation, lying. If someone lies, they certainly can affect your agency. They don't truly affect your agency, because no one can take that away. Nothing and no one can take that away. The only thing that can be taken away is your perception and ownership. Your, not even ownership, but your your perception of it. You perceive that you don't have agency. You perceive that you have no control.
And so, like narcissistic relationships are great examples of that, where, and it's not even just lying that they use. Like they may do things to tire you out or to give you like self-hatred. And so you essentially like take away your own agency versus someone else taking it from you, although that person influenced your own removal of your agency. But I don't think lying is the only thing. There's like so many other tactics. I don't know. Yeah, I have not. Okay, let me go back up and read the rest of the chat. Yeah, I mean, I would say just be careful, leaving your blood flow to your feet. But yeah, you have total agency to do that. to sit and watch this with your feet in the air. Just be careful with your blood flow. I think it's a positive effect. If that's what you want to do, I think it's incredible. I think it's incredible. Now, if you're doing that because you believe that I'm making you do that, and it ends up having a negative effect on you, that's not good at all, because then I am affecting your agency. And that's not what I'm intending to do here. But you know what, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I'm intending. Like, what matters is what actually is happening. So, that would be on my own agency to understand how my actions are affecting someone else, regardless of my intention. But I think it's pretty positive if that's what you want to be doing. Hell yeah. Yeah, I haven't updated my opinion on the segregation of the ants, but is it something that needs to be fixed? That's my question. I think that's where I was before. My opinion hasn't changed on it. I think I'm in the same place. I don't know if it's something that needs to be fixed. I think it's natural. It's a natural association of communities that want to be together. Oh, good question. What effect do actions that seem inconsequential have on people light years away? Well, I mean, you throw out an interesting point, people light years away. That's something I'd never heard of before, and I think that's cool. If that was true, but I get your question on this, being petty. The effect is big. What do they call it? They call it like the butterfly effect. I don't know if that's exactly it, but it could be big. Something that you think is inconsequential, and so that's why it's like really important to hold space if someone ever does bring forward to you a boundary. That, and again, it's like, it doesn't matter your intention, man. I got that so much. I had an ex. I had a shitty ex, man. He fucked me up big time. That's where I came into deep contact with the concepts of narcissism, trying to understand toxic relationships. Because he just gaslit and fucked with my head and my self-esteem and my self-worth so much. But I would constantly try to hold him, throughout the entire time I was a great communicator. That's one thing I did hold true to myself, was I was constantly communicating and trying to work through with him and trying to make himself aware of his actions and how they hurt people. And his response every single time was, well, I didn't intend to hurt. I didn't intend to do that. I say that, that doesn't matter, because your intention's valuable. I'll validate your intention and I'll hold space for you to share your intention. Yes, that's valuable. But at the end of the day, your actions still created a certain effect. And you got to take that seriously. Just as much as I need to take seriously your intention, you need to take even more seriously your actions and the effects that they have. And sometimes the effects were really indirect, and it was really hard for him to understand how consequential it was. It doesn't seem like it made any effect, and it wasn't my intention. And so for him, it was like, case closed, done, let's move on, stop bothering me about this. But thank goodness that is no longer a close relationship in my life.
Yeah, fuck toxic relationships. They totally toxic. That's the whole nature of toxic relationships, is that they make you feel as if you lost your agency. But if you want to talk even in a more macro level and talking about like fragile states, like we were last week, of like communities that are oppressed by toxic systemic issues or tyrants, like literal tyrants, their inability to connect with others and their inability to converge has affected their own agency, their own perceived agency. They feel as if they can't do anything, and it's like, well, you can, like, on your own you may not be able to, yeah, because you're working against this like rigged system against you, but like you're among a community of millions of people that each individual has agency, but each individual is also feeling the same conflict of feeling as if they don't have agency. And so that's the power of that convergence. Like if or that social cohesion, if that can happen, then they can say fuck off to all that violence. Yeah, mint and green tea is really nice, super refreshing. I think that's a good idea. Oh, that's why your feet are in the air, because you're covered in laundry? Well, do you have the ability to do your laundry? Because I understand some people don't have the ability to do it, so then, I'll finish right there. But if you have the ability and you want to be on your bed, I'd suggest exploring your agency for doing your laundry. Just saying. But you don't have to. Like, don't feel pressured or anything. I'm just saying that that's like a great option. We are all I like that, kitchen. Yeah, we do affect each other. And everything, right? So I think taking this conversation to the next level, like last week we were talking a lot more about like interpersonal relationships, like taking care of other people regardless of like not being able to empathize with another human's experience, because we all grow up with our own experiences. That's important. But today's conversation, I really wanted to address the ills that like humanism or anthropocentrism has brought to the world. That like we not only need to care about each other as people, but we also need to care about everything else. Animals, nature, soil, water, even things in light years far, far away that we don't even know exist. We do need to care about them as well. Yeah, you're right. But I don't think they were referring to people light years away. I think they were just talking about like things light years away, or it can't even be just a thing. That's the thing about like string theory and quantum mechanics, is like everything is made of string, even energy, like sound waves. Which I guess sound waves are a thing as well, but I think people think of them less as things and more as like energies, waves. Those are also all made up of the same strings that make up us. It's magical. It's magical. Sounds like Christianity. so happy to hear you're doing your laundry. It's funny. It's so when you brought up Christianity, someone else brought up Christianity or Christ-like earlier tonight, and I usually don't like to talk about religion, but this is one topic that we're talking about today, about like humanism and anthropocentrism, like all of the philosophers that introduced those concepts, which, you know, didn't really get popularized until the Renaissance. They all cite, like, all of it cites the origins of those concepts in the single word from the Old Testament of dominion. That, like, powered that whole movement that's gotten us to where we are today and to the challenges where we're at today. And so, of all the religions, I mean, it's like we can kind of... So what's the solution, you know? Like, I would never dare tell someone, not just because of my own ethics, but, like, I just don't think that that's the right way to communicate and to practice, you know, my agency for change. Like, I don't think, like, telling someone that they need to change their ideology, but, like, this is a severe issue. Both Christianity and Judaism are the two religions that have been, like, cited as the origin of this ideology, which now, you know, with colonization and globalization has, you know, trickled into everybody's ideology through, you know, consumerism, basically. How to, like, address that and, like, activate that change, I don't know. I was asking some friends that question yesterday, and it's a hard question. It's like, whoa, that's deep. What is this? I don't know, what is it? They've also cited some, like, Confucius texts. That like give merit to the concepts of humanism, or, you know, can be cited as origins of some ideology of, like, human-centric decision making. So it's a joke. You trying to, like, Rickroll me? Someone asked earlier tonight, like, what are the legal consequences of being Rickrolled? That's what it sounds like, Zombo.com. That's a bold statement, Kitchen. I don't know, like, I'm kind of a fan, even though I don't personally believe in it. Like, I do believe in a spirit, in, like, the thing that powers our consciousness, you know, has the potential to carry on. I don't know, I haven't, you know, really cemented my thoughts on what exactly happens to it. But, like, people that I know that do firmly have, like, ideologies of what happens to your spirit. And I kind of support it. Like, I support it. Like, you know, I don't think it's delusional. What I don't support
is this specific, like that word of dominion that like powers humans to believe that they're like, it almost like erases spirituality out of that religion, like that in of itself. Like, and then, you could say all day long, oh, I believe in the Father and the Spirit and the Holy Ghost and all these things, and it's like, no, you don't, because you've completely erased the value and the relevance of the spirit of interconnectedness. Yeah, this is Human Agency with a tea expert. We've been going for almost 3 hours now. It's been a good conversation. We've had a lot of fun. I've drank tea. I've educated on tea, and there's a lot of connection between tea and human agency. I mean, tea is like, right, it's got a 5,000 year history, right? Which, a lot of people will like focus on that and say, oh, this is an ancient, medicine. This is an ancient healing tool. There's got to be power to it, which is true. There's power to it. But tea being this like ubiquitous human cultural item is only 300 years of history, which compared to 5,000 years, 300 years is like a very small amount of that history. Not trying to devalue the importance of tea as like a human consciousness tool, because it is, and it's like, that's why in 300 years it has just fucking blown up. Religion, the opium of the masses, I've never heard of that one, but that's a powerful statement. I never heard of it. I understand it. But, I've when I was younger, when I was like, one of those rebellious atheists in high school, I would have totally like backed up that statement. But now, like, I've come to value religion a lot more than I used to. I still don't practice any religion myself, but I value it a lot more because, yeah. I think like opium, the word opium, although some will argue, but it's kind of detrimental, self-detrimental, like as an intoxicant to humans. So I don't think that's the right description for it. I don't think it's the right description. Because I think religion can be actually very empowering to people, even though I might not agree with it. I think it's empowering for them. But yeah, humans only discovered tea really like 300 years ago, and it's a very powerful spiritual tool. It's a meditation tool. I mean, of the 5,000 years that some communities were growing and drinking tea, it was pretty much exclusively like monks that were using the tea as a meditation tool, which is like totally like a tool for human agency. I mean, at that time, I think that's like the mission of like a Buddhist monk, is to just surrender themselves to their own agency, but at the same time do nothing, right? And so, I think a lot of times that like the concept of agency or free will is associated with action. And what's interesting about like monks that are like perhaps practicing their agency more than anybody else in the world are doing no action. That's interesting. So yeah, that's the connection between human agency and tea. That's why I feel like it's appropriate for a tea expert to be talking. I mean, I'm just trying to learn for myself, honestly. Like, I really only looked up the concept of agency for the first time tonight, like live on stream, and the concept of post-humanism, which I'm now a big fan of. I never read about it before. I've read about humanism, but not post-humanism. Religions make people believe in things that are not real in this world, and the ideas are the ones that are dangerous in the wrong mindsets. That's true, but at the same time, like, yeah, Yeah, I believe Marx, you know, at least in the Wikipedia article that I read about agency, Marx tends to be regarded as one of the first philosophers to describe agency. So that's cool. I used to, like, when I was a young, cynical, like, high schooler, I definitely demonized, you know, anything that wasn't A is A, B is B. You know, Aristotle for the win, which, you know, I still, you know, I'm a scientist, so I was still in that right. Like, that's my path. That's my agency, is that I like things to add up. I don't know, it could just be my own personal preference. It is my own personal preference. But, you know, I don't like to demonize people believing in things that aren't real. Now, I celebrate, like, if someone believes things that's not real and they are self-aware of that, and they are self-aware of that allegory or of that, you know, figurative symbol, I celebrate that. That's cool. That's, like, super awesome self-awareness that I do celebrate and that I can get into. I don't like to demonize if they're not self-aware, but what I will demonize is when hate gets involved and when people erase the only spirituality that matters, which is that interconnectedness. Oh man, it makes me so mad. I'm just like, oh, that's the one thing I will argue on. And I have to do it with my own family, you know, which is a big challenge. The people that I love most in my life, I have to do that with. And I get so much pushback. But I need to learn how to communicate, self-reflect, and get better. So that's why I do this work. That's why I'm, like, studying this today. Appreciate you all with me today to study it and try to articulate around it. Yeah, there's power, right? That's a good point. Believing in things that aren't real brings large number of people together. And involving with agency, and when we're in moments of fragility where we, like, lose touch with our agency, people coming together is, like, perhaps the most powerful thing that can happen for people to restore their agency, even as individuals. Like, if people converge together under believing a common, you know, false reality, like, it doesn't necessarily mean, it can mean this, and that's what happens with, like, cults and shit, but, like, it doesn't necessarily mean that their agency is going to become this collective thing. No, like, their agencies are individualized things. But that convergence, that cohesion that happens is going to empower them to, like, regain contact with their agency. Yeah, but there's definitely toxic, false beliefs, that exist, right? And the anti-science stuff is could be one of those. And so that's why, like I said, I pointed out that, like, celebrating when people are aware, self-aware that perhaps that false thing they're believing in is just a symbol, it can be celebrated. That's super powerful. Powerful point. Belief in national flag, country borders, supernatural being is important for human survival. I think those are examples of things that help with survival. I think there could be other manifestations that could have happened having the same positive effect of, like, convergence and collective power. But yeah, it could be negative. People believing the same wrong thing for the sake of some kind of collective agency, could be very detrimental and damaging. Like cults, like a cult that, people justify violence against others or against themselves, right? Like they justify violence for the sake of this common belief. Yeah, that's damaging. That's not good. But shit, until we can measure those strings, like the Dalai Lama says, we're gonna at some points have to believe things that don't exist or aren't real. Because they aren't real because we can't see them, right? And that's why I get so excited about like quantum mechanics and shit, because like there's a lot of stuff there that the scientists that are doing work there just like have to trust. They have to just believe. Like this is something we've never been able to see or measure or read, but we just believe it's there. And someone else could interpret that and say, "Oh, you're delusional. That's not real. You're believing something that's not real." And I think that's been a little bit of a conflict within the science world. It is. I think it's a legitimate conflict. I wish someone was here in chat that knows about that, but I think it's been a conflict in the scientific world. Resistance towards accepting quantum mechanics as like a legitimate science. Because yeah, there's certain parts of it you just gotta believe something. But the Dalai Lama said, as soon as we can measure strings and we can measure their behaviors and measure the flow, we could pretty much calculate all of spirituality. We can calculate all of religion. We can calculate all of these things. And whoa, what would that do to humanity if we got to that point? Yeah, he's sleepy. He's a sleepy boy. He just, he's always sleeping. When I started the stream, he was just sleeping on the couch, and then he decided he wanted to come say hi to you. Yeah. He'll be a good lap dog. He wasn't like this always. When he was a puppy, he was a real troublemaker. He was real bitey. He bit everybody. All my friends have an experience of him biting them. I laugh about it, but I shouldn't, because he was a bad boy, but now he's very well behaved. Yeah, I think that's a generalized statement, because not all religions have created that kind of effect. And in the case of like radical Islam, which yeah, he took control of his own agency and realized, I can't be biting everybody. I get less treats when I bite people. And you know what? Like when I'm chilled out, like it feels pretty good. It's warm sitting on her lap. If I like go on her lap and make a ruckus and make chaos, she's not gonna let me sit on her lap. So like, yeah, I think that's a big part of agency, is like not only knowing that we have the free will to do what we want, but knowing that like our decisions have consequences, and like as we get older and more experienced, it becomes more and more complex and more nuanced. But yeah, like radical Islam, it's kind of sad that's happened. And for a lot of people in Europe, as well as in the United States, that like their experience with Islam is kind of limited to this news and to this story. It's kind of heartbreaking, because Islam is an extremely peaceful religion. like when I was in Niger, when I was in the Peace Corps, they were all practicing Muslims, and they taught me a lot about their religion, and it was like this awesome thing because all of them were like fully committed to it, and it was a very personal pursuit. It wasn't like a political pursuit or some kind of hierarchy or some type of like repentance to get better. It was like no, the only pursuit was just to like get more and more connected to God. And it was your own personal path, and like no one was in your way. It was just you on your path. Which I think is like powerful. And like humility and yeah, these are like very strong tenets and pillars of the religion. But the way that I've heard it explained to me, like whenever I would ask people, like, hey, before I came here and got exposed to Islam through you, I just knew from the news, after 9/11, like that's what I learned, and they were like, yeah, like they could be assigning this religion as like their doctrine that they're working under, but it's a completely different. And it's heartbreaking for the religion as a whole. Yeah, I definitely saw some issues with patriarch. But I'm coming to learn now. I'm researching now and learning that the history of the patriarch in Africa is, hey Faith, the history of the patriarch in Africa is a lot different than what I originally thought. Like I thought it was something that was always there since the beginning of time, but it's a lot of people are starting to make the case that patriarch in these places didn't really come in until European colonialism. They say the Tao is water, powerful in this world, yet tides rise and fall at the winds and moons. Float amongst the tides, swirl in eddies, all things flow to the same source. Form into the formless and back again. Oh, how beautiful, Palmetto. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, Jim on Twitch was saying that. He was saying that the Tao is flow. And it's all exactly what we're talking about. And that's certainly spiritual, but has nothing to say about, any kind of theistic theology. It's just spirituality. But somehow we're involved, Ben. Somehow we're involved in all of that. Somehow. We still have troops in Afghanistan, right? Why? If it's thousands of miles away, not our problem, why? It's an important question to ask. I'm not saying us, but like the country, the United States military, and business interest and all of those things. Faith, I think I'm going to be ending soon, but I'll catch you up on what we've been talking about today. We've been talking about free will versus agency, the difference between those two things. And chat from Reddit has been keeping the conversation focused a lot around spirituality and religion. Which is true, because that's actually, I remember my first interaction with the concept of free will came from like, my parents, my family is Catholic, and so, my religious experience when I was younger was through Catholic school, or, Sunday school. I didn't go to Catholic school, I went to public school, but, on Sundays we'd have to go through our class. And I remember that was the first time I heard about free will, was through church, was through religion. So totally valid that we keep talking about religion here today. Totally valid. Um, but when I was introduced to it, I was kind of cautioned. I was cautioned about free will, about like it's like this illusion. You may feel like you have free will, but ultimately there's this fate much more powerful than you. And that, even at a young age, I didn't buy. I didn't put a lot of value into it, but like when I got into high school, you better damn believe I did. I like thought about it constantly, and I was very skeptical about it. But then when I went to college and I got looped in with these scholars with the Ahimsa Center, and heard the Dalai Lama, heard all these scientists talking about free will and talking about spirituality, I was like, hell yeah. And then immediately after that, I went to the Peace Corps, and I lived, in a Muslim society, and that not only was it Muslim, but it was also an animist society. They weren't supposed to practice animism because, they were all supposed to convert to Islam, but they did practice it. And like, I could tell that they like first and foremost believed that. Like, they did pray 5 times a day. They did believe in the tenets of Islam, and they had a beautiful relationship with God. That was true. Culturally, yes, they became Muslim, but like deep in their hearts, spiritually, they were still animists. And I saw some crazy shit. And I was like, whoa, this has got to be real. Like, there's power here. It's not my power. It's not my ideology. And I accept that, but like, it's valid. And that really opened up a lot of doors in my life of, understanding spirituality, and kind of even opening up my own path for spirituality. That path is still progressing and still going. And yeah, today has been a really helpful, beautiful conversation. Thank you all for being here, being a part of it. I appreciate all of you. Bitcoin, we want to say goodbye to Reddit. We're about to say goodbye to Reddit. Oh no, we gotta think about ourselves as a part of the whole. All right, Faith, I'm gonna go. My Reddit stream just finished. Yeah, I'm gonna go get some rest, eat some food, get some rest.
Bye, TikTok. I had 41 people come through TikTok. Cool. Faith, I hope you have a good weekend. Let me know if you wanna get together. You're here. Let's go. Let's see if there's someone to raid. I'll go take you to go see some synthesizer stuff. This is like a synth streamer. I've never hung out in their channel before, but I've hung out with them in other channels, and they're reading some noise. I'll take you over there. Let's go. All right, good night, everybody. Have a great weekend. So much love.